Welcome, friends, to episode 280 of Color Magic, or Magic Gaming Podcast, where we talk about all types of issues that affect gamers at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 280 episodes, still got my main man way down in Texas, Brian Sonic. How's it going, dude?
It is going well. Is it way down? Make it sound like I'm well, Texas is another country, technically. It's
Yeah,
part of
well,
our
considering where
tourism
I'm
stuff.
at up in Washington, we're on opposite ends these days.
It's true.
Man, we have a lot to talk about in this episode. Like there's a lot of price related stuff. We have 3 or 4 stories around that. There's some buyouts, there's crazy projects. You name it. We got a lot. This episode, strap yourselves in because there's gonna be a lot of conversation going on here. And like I said, a lot of money stuff involving games, so you might want to pay attention. But before we get into all that, don't forget you can go to patreon.com/colormagic so you can support the show, and really appreciate your support for all of you that have been patrons. The rest of you, get over there, toss in $1 or 2, and you can get a shout out just like our man Aaron Garcia. Thank you for being a patron of the show. But all right, lead story. This is an interesting one. I don't think it's necessarily about the product itself, but we kind of get to see what happens when these things sell out fast and scalpers and speculators get their hands on stuff, because we see another case of the secret layers price bottoming out very quickly. And we're talking about the recent Spongebob ones. So you pointed out to me that, hey, there's already people talking about how stuff has gotten chopped down 70% in price in some cases. A bunch of it 50 to 60% down in price. So yeah,
SpongeBob's. Let me see. SpongeBob's rainbow foil version is gone from 44 to 18. The non-foil version took a nosedive from $60 to $14. Of course, these are talking about the singles out of the set. Non-foil Patrick is down from $8 to $2. So yeah, these are some pretty big dips.
Yeah, and I'll say the thing here, to kind of clarify for people, is that secret layers and commander cards tend to be some of the ones that hold their prices the longest. And I mean, when I
Yeah.
say commander, I mean the ones from the commander decks that you can't get elsewhere. But also, it's just over time, they tend to hold their value longest because there are fewer reprints for those and everything else. So to see the price drop here, it's not that shocking because we saw the same thing with the Marvel superheroes when those went up, I guess now like 6 months ago. It was, man, it feels like I guess it's been about that long. Wow, that's crazy. But when we saw that happen, it was the same thing, right? Sold out in the first hour, I think it was. Nobody could get them. A couple weeks later, they start showing up in people's hands, and then literally on eBay, on Facebook Marketplace, on OfferUp, on whatever, like you saw all the cards everywhere, and people were having trouble moving them, right? They were charging tons for the full sets of 5, and then you saw that price come down by the end of the same week to half the price they were charging. And it's the exact same thing happening here, right? If it's all speculators that are out there buying it, scalpers, flippers, whatever you want to call them, well, then they're all getting them at the same time and they're trying to dump them. But what happens is, I saw one person's listing previously where they had like, yeah, it was either 15 or 17 auctions, all or listings, not necessarily auctions, all listed. And I'm like, you're just competing against yourself. Like, why is somebody going to pay the top price when there's 17 of them right there? So like at some point, those prices, and you have everybody else who got them doing the same thing. So in the same 48-hour period, you have literally hundreds of these come on the market. So nobody has to pay top price.
And then your marketers have, because some people just hate Universe Beyond and they don't want them at all.
Yeah. Like you get discouraged because you went and tried to buy it. And you're like, you know what? It's not worth my time. I'll just save my money. Right. And you're not going to definitely on the secondary market when you couldn't get it, pay 3 times, 4 times the price.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, even for the Marvel ones, I still don't own them, but I have a +1/+1 counters deck. I wanted the Black Panther for the deck, and fortunately found somebody who had bought a couple sets and they just sold it to me at cost. So I bought that. But otherwise, I wouldn't have bought one. I'd just been like, oh, well, I guess I don't get one for a while. Maybe I'll trade for one down the road or something. But yeah, so I think this is one of those things, right? Like, I wouldn't put this as an indication of nobody wants the cards. I think that's the wrong thing for people to take away. I think it's just when you put them all in the market at the same time, it's just supply and demand. At the end of the day, if I need one and there's 10 different people trying to sell them and you've got 20 sets each, well, then, yeah, so at some point, some of those people are going to compete for the bottom to sell it because they're trying to get their money back as fast as possible. right?
Well,
Trying to get that
what
flip.
do you think the number is on people who just are completely out on Universes Beyond? Is that 20%, 30%? Where would you say that number is?
If I was being like based on what I've seen at shows and conversations I've had with people, I would say it's like being honestly 100% out. Even if they make your favorite thing or whatever, you're not going to buy it. Probably under 20%. It's probably like 10 to 15. Realistically, people that they just don't want anything at all with Universes Beyond. It's not as like the vocal minority online makes it seem like there's a lot more, but if you actually go to these conventions and stuff, like you see people playing with Secret Lair, you see people buying them from dealers, so it's not nearly as many as I think the community would think it is.
But if you're trying to sell something and 50% of the people that play the game are like, you know what, I'm out, that's still going to hurt your margin in
Oh
terms of
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
sell, like
like
you said, 50 cards at once. You know,
yeah, and well, and it's does everybody even have the money at the same time? Because right now,
also that.
with all the uncertainty, we'll call it in the market, some people are holding on to money a little tighter. So they're not going to come out and pay the high premium for a thing they don't need, especially when it's just reprints. It just has different skins on them. So your timing's also bad on it if you're a speculator. Like, wasn't the product to do it on or the timing to do it with. So yeah, this while it is concerning if you just look at it and go, "Oh my god," like you said, some of these things were $40 and I can get them for $8 now. Like what? Like that's crazy. But that's actually not that unreal when you look at the whole totality of the whole thing. Now, I will also say when it comes to SpongeBob, it's also not as universal as Marvel or Final
Also true.
Fantasy or Hatsune Miku or whatever some of these others, right? But maybe that's also part of it too, right? You speculated on the one that while it's popular, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still see people rocking SpongeBob stuff and still selling it,
Yeah.
at Target and Walmart where it's still out there. But I wonder if the market for that of the people who would buy the premium parts of it aren't the same market that wants to buy the premium Marvel, Final Fantasy, whatever stuff, right? It's just a different audience of folks as well, which could be part of it. So yeah, just again, Wizards made their money, but I honestly think you could have made more money and you would have not created this whole thing and the story behind it with the speculators, whatever, if you just made more available to begin with. Like that's really the whole story here. Like they keep more money, more people get it at cost, everybody walks away happy. There's just no need to have this limited number on them. But obviously, I'm still standing by something in the system says they can't print them the way we want them to print them,
That's what I'm thinking.
which is
It's
the
something
only
just
reason because nothing else makes sense. You know, especially not.
maybe there's almost like a football contract where, hey, if you print this many, Marvel gets more money. If you print this many, the price goes up. There might be something along
Maybe,
those lines.
that's very possible. It could be something like that, right? The brands have limits on what you can print, or honestly, with the number of products and hell, now getting stuff at certain facilities and in and out of the country and whatever, who knows, right? That's going to be another printing issue. So you may have to pre-print some stuff to make sure you can deliver on it. I don't know, but yeah, crazy time. It's like I said, a little bit of a interesting story, but I think it shows what happens, when you get a lot of these speculators just dumping it. And honestly, we'll never know the numbers. I don't know how many are actual people, but I will say on my social media feeds, I didn't see a lot of people going, "Oh, I actually got through the queue and got my thing." It's a lot of people just being mad that they didn't get through the
Yeah,
queue. So I don't know how many of them. I might have seen. Man,
they had to stop the queue at one point. So I'm sure a
yeah,
lot
I
of people
saw that.
went. A lot of people went on with their day at that point. If you already took a bunch of time out of your schedule to go sit and try to get this, and then everything shuts down, like, hey, I'm gonna go touch the grass now. Never mind.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I even saw more than two people that were celebrating that they actually got their thing. Not to say that other people some people might just not have said anything,
Yeah.
but I think I only saw two, which
Let's be
is
talking about the people that are upset are always the most vocal. So
exactly. But I feel like for other things, when it's been available, people be like, "Hey, I got my thing, and it's really cool. You should go in and still have some left."
that's why every company has a complaint department. Everybody doesn't have a compliment department. Thanks, nice job. That's not a thing
A
usually.
praise department,
Yeah,
treat it
somebody
like
to
a
sit
church. You get
there,
that praise phone call. We get to have a praise break.
yeah, sit there, have all that all somebody that just takes all the positive comments. Yeah, that's usually not a thing at any company.
Yeah. Well, all right. that being said, let's step into the soapbox because I do have a little bit of a gripe today. And I'm gonna try to not get too political about this, but you've probably experienced this. Like there are people that expect you when they come to you to not have an attitude, right? Which is fine, right? I've already had people assume I'm gonna have attitude. It's that whole thing of like you got to try not to be the angry black guy in the room sometimes, right? Because you even though you're justified, people are gonna take it a certain way. We know it's a thing. It's been a thing. But it gets even crazier when people step to you, whether that's in person, whether that's in your DMs, on social media, whatever, with an attitude directly, like coming at you, talking trash, being angry, whatever, saying something way out of left field. And then you kind of just say something smartly back to them. And they're like, oh, so that's how you treat your fans? That's how you treat your viewers? Like, bro, what? Like,
Is that how you treat people that you're supposedly a fan of?
exactly. That was my other thing. Like, so like if you are legitly a fan, a viewer, a follower, whatever, like how are you going to your favorite people with an attitude and not expect them to have an attitude back? Like one, that already tells me you're full of crap. But two, just as a human, like you can't go to somebody and then just be shocked when they actually say something back. Like,
Right.
that's all them videotapes we see of them Karens in the stores. Like you go get an attitude with the clerk or whatever, and then she says something like, I want to talk to your manager.
Yeah.
Or like, woman, you started this. Like,
I feel threatened. A black man is harassing me.
bruh, I saw one lady literally went and started a thing with another woman, like trashing her, trying to take stuff from her, whatever. And then when she saw a security roll by, tried to like, she's attacking me. Like legitly, like on video, they have it. So they didn't do anything to the other woman, but I'm just like, people are wilding, man, for real.
Right.
But seriously, like even taking the time to go into someone's DMs and then like trash them and then not expect them to want to say something back. Like what's the logic there? Like that don't even make sense to me. Like believe me, the times I have been even bothered at all or even slightly upset, I've already been like, okay, I'm gonna go talk about this to this person. I'm sure they're gonna be defensive and it's gonna be a little bit of an awkward conversation, right? You already know the mode you're putting the person in. So like if they get a little elevated and upset or whatever, like I expect that. Like that's not weird. That's what should happen. Like I can't imagine rolling up to somebody and going like, well, you're an idiot because of blah blah blah. And you're like, but you ain't so smart either because you went to this dumb college or whatever, and then like, oh, so that's what you're gonna talk about me? Like, bro, you came up and called me an idiot. Like, what do you like? What am I supposed to do? Just be like, yeah, you right. Like, you know what I mean? Like what? Like, it doesn't make any
Quit hitting
sense.
yourself. Quit hitting
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly. That's exactly it, right? So like, it's just weird to see that. And there was somebody I follow on Facebook had posted a thing that he had to get up and like the dude was getting mad that his wife had defended herself because he went into her sent her a private message talking about if she doesn't if keeps posting a certain thing he's going to take her on a Fredo fishing trip. Now
Wow.
if you know the Godfather,
Yeah.
right, a Fredo fishing trip is somebody ain't coming back from that fishing trip.
Right.
And I'm like, what did you expect somebody to say? Like, you sent somebody the equivalent of a death threat,
Yeah.
and then you want to act a fool when they say something about it? Like, what? Like, that's crazy. That's legitly crazy. Like, you're out of your mind. Now, to her credit, her dude saw that was like, look, he just came out publicly, called the person out, whatever. The other person still wanted to have an attitude or whatever, but it's just like, dude, come on. Like, what are we doing? Like, that's over the line. Like, you have to know. You go to threaten somebody, and then you still don't expect them or their significant others to, like, call you out? Like, who cares how public of a person they are? They should call you out. You're acting a fool.
Exactly.
Like, come on, man. Anyway, that's my rant. Some of y'all just got to get your stuff together, man. Like, what's going on? Like, y'all, something ain't right. Y'all, not even touch grass. Y'all need to go see a therapist. Y'all need to go work out, get some of that stress out of your system. Maybe get a cat or a dog so you can pet them, take them for a walk or something. I'm just saying, people need a little bit of that. You know, need something to de-stress your life for real. But all right, let's go ahead and talk about what did we learn this week? Because, man, there's a couple of random things this week, a couple of random things, but this should be an interesting bit. So why don't you start?
Yeah, I love science. I love baseball. In this case, we're mashing these two things together because if you hadn't heard, the New York Yankees and all their near infinite New York media money hired an MIT physicist to design some new baseball bats for them. They're called torpedo bats because they look a little odd and the weight is kind of distributed differently. And apparently, these things they are just they're putting up video game. I'm thinking one 3-game series this past weekend. They smashed 15 home runs, but the bats are technically legal by Major League Baseball's description of what you can do with the bat. It's just they put science on it, and old boy put the majority of the wood where the bat is most likely to make contact with the ball, which does a whole bunch. I mean, if you look up torpedo bat, it'll explain the science to you far better than I'll be able to. But yeah, right now, Yankees are mashing baseballs. Other teams have already put their orders in. I think L.A. De La Cruz from the Reds used one the other night. He mashed 2 or 3 homers in 4 at bats. It's wild times right now.
The interesting thing here is that every other sport practically spends money on the technology of the sport, whatever it is. You know, hell, even the NBA, which seemingly doesn't have much to mess with, we still see them, adjusting the rims and the backboard material and whatever periodically. And the shoes have to meet certain things. And, hell, I remember way back, they had them, what was it, the Karl Malone catapult shoes?
Oh,
And
God,
that was a
yeah.
whole discussion, right? So even then, right? And for whatever reason, baseball just never spends the money. As crazy as that is, right? They just don't. Like, they upgrade things. It's like, hey, we'll do this to the stadium, or we'll, uniforms get a new look or whatever. But they just don't hire the people to do all the math and the science to, like, hey, does this make our sport better? Hell, the NFL hires people to figure out shape of helmets and padding and concussions, and do we need to use neck rolls and blah blah, and like, and every year it seems like you see a new weird thing on an NFL player. Like, now we just have the tape on the elbows now, whatever, and that apparently protects people's skin as good as like elbow pads and stuff. Like, who knew, right? But they keep figuring all this stuff out.
And
So the fact,
there's been a lot of sides in terms of like analytics and like the kind of players you get, but
yeah,
this is really the best idea anybody has had for the bat that's legal. I just think it has to fit within the certain rules of professional baseball. But yeah, this is really the first big bat innovation in probably over 100 years.
I
And of
mean,
course, it took an MIT physicist.
and that's exactly it, right? You went and just said, hey, let's get us some nerds and let's see if the nerds can help make us better. Like, that's basically it. And goes to show, like, nerds still valuable to sports ball, y'all.
Right.
Like, it just is. So I don't know, like, how do you think this is going to change? Like, is every team going to start spending now or go and getting their own nerds to figure out some science, or what?
I guess first thing you're gonna figure out, like, are we gonna get all the way through the season with this bat? Because our numbers gonna get steroid era where everybody's hitting 60 home runs? Because that didn't turn out to be sustainable. So I don't know how. We'll
You
see.
know what? If you can do that with all legal stuff, you might revitalize the sport a little bit, because, man, them home run races get people attention. I'm just saying, traditionalists are going to hate it.
Yeah.
They're absolutely going to hate it.
What's that syndrome said? If everyone's super, then no one will be. And there definitely
basically.
there was some of that during because like, for example, Aaron Judge was going for a home run record a couple of years ago, and it just kind of felt like nobody cared. Because we'd seen that already.
Yeah, but you got to have, like, if you had a good race with 2-3 people and they're within like 3 home runs of each other, and every game they could possibly crank out 2 of them, that could be fun.
Plus, the last time somebody broke the record, I think the record had stood for, I want to say, 50 or 60 years. When it's only 15 or 20 years, it's not quite the same thing.
And that's why, as a Cowboys fan, I'm still mad at the Eagles for not letting your boy get the rushing record. So I'm just saying.
I feel like everybody is upset with them for doing that. Why would you not do that?
I'm just saying, you have a chance to break a record that's been around for 40 plus years. Like,
everybody other than Eric Dickerson was unhappy about that.
Yep. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Good for them though that they at least won the Super Bowl, because if you didn't,
Yeah.
that'd have been hell to pay. Everybody would have talked about it. So they got bailed out. Okay, I found this other interesting thing because we talked about this the other day. How at one point Microsoft had made an offer to buy Nintendo, but it was a dumb deal. Nintendo came back with an offer, they turned it down, and then Nintendo became what it is. I found another interesting thing, which apparently was a known fact that I just didn't know. So, other people may get to learn with me that the Sony PlayStation originally was planning on building a part for the Super Nintendo. They
Yeah.
were going to be like a CD add on or whatever, and they could have a CD ROM drive, kind of like what they were doing with the Sega Genesis, where you had like the Sega CD and the 32X, and you just
Yep.
built a Voltron with like the 4 different pieces or whatever. They were thinking about doing that for the Super Nintendo, but for whatever reason, they couldn't come to terms on how it was going to be implemented or how it was going to look or something, some design thing. And they were like, okay, cool. They went their separate ways. And I guess PlayStation was like, well, we're 3/4 of the way there. Why don't we just make our own console? And like, I
And the
started
rest
thinking
is
about it, dude.
history.
Yeah, exactly. Think about how those two deals just change everything we know about the video game market, right? Like, it's possible Sony may never have gotten into video games themselves. Or if Microsoft had the foresight and paid Nintendo the price they wanted to, like, Nintendo's just a whole different company. You know what I mean? Like, that's just crazy how that
We
stuff
could have ended up
happens.
with just Microsoft making video games for consoles. Really,
Yeah,
we just
that's a real thing. It sounds crazy, but like, you weren't that far from it. Like, there was a point in time where like that timeline could have diverged and happened. So like, that's why it's stuff like that is just interesting to me, because it's like you talk about like the butterfly effect, right? Of
right.
what happens if this decision was made. Like, you look around at what you know and how you see stuff in the market or whatever, you're like, man, a different agreement or somebody making the decision to assign a couple of engineers or something or whatever changes literally everything we know about video games.
And if you believe Microsoft's finances that they spilled in court when they were trying to purchase Activision Blizzard, and I'm not sure I do, but according to them, they've never won a console war. They've never turned a profit on this, so to speak. So, and supposedly they've been running Xbox at a loss for decades. Of course, it ends with them buying Activision Blizzard and
Yeah,
them
of
becoming
course.
the biggest video game company in the world. So even if everything they say is true, and I'm not convinced that it is, they still won in the end.
And not just that, the Activision Blizzard deal was like at the end of a string of other buyouts, because they bought
Right.
3, 4 little studios, they bought Minecraft, they bought whatever, and then like culminated in buying Activision. So crazy. But all right, let's get into some fun topics for the day, because this is kind of interesting. For those of you who don't know, our Archidekt is a or a deck hosting website. And usually for a lot of Commander players, it's very flashy. It's kind of over the top with lots of sliding features, and it looks cool. But one of the fun things they did on the site was they actually at one point had implemented a poem generator. So you could put your deck in there, and then it would analyze your cards and it would write some type of little poem about your deck or whatever.
Cards
Which
are made for fools like me, but I'm going to stomp you with the tree.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, it was just fun and silly, just a neat little thing to have on there. And it sounds like they implemented it like around the beginning of the AI trend, a couple of years ago. But they kind of looked at it and said, hey, we kind of see the downside of AI. We know the energy it burns up. And honestly, it's not really doing a thing. We don't need it on the website. So they made an announcement, I think it was last week, either last week or the week before, about, hey, we're going to go ahead and sunset this, take it off our website. And just letting everybody know it's just going to be gone if you like the feature or not. Sorry. And it was met with a lot of praise. I think a lot of people are coming around to, you don't hate AI, but you don't want it to be wasteful, and you don't want it to just be taken away from people. If
Yeah.
it's actually helping make things more efficient and do something good and positive, then great. But that just wasn't really doing anything.
Right.
So, kind of cool to see that even if they'd have left it, I don't think anybody would have cared. It's kind of just nominal in there. Cool to see that some companies are at least putting in the foresight to say, how badly do we need this on the site still? Like, this is kind of a waste of resources. Let's just get rid of it. And that's pretty cool. And like I said, just the response people had to it was kind of surprising. So, yeah, uh, that aside, guess what yesterday was? It was
Oh,
April Fool's Day, as they
that's
called it.
right. Game journalists hate that because everything you read, you got to verify 52 times to make sure like this is actually happening. Okay.
Bruh, like I just ignore a lot of stuff when I see like anything that even sounds sensational. I'm like, I'll check the news tomorrow. Hell, I saw a thing where the dude that played Batman died. And I was
Right.
like, I'm like, is that for real though? Like, I mean, because it was April Fool's Day. I'm like, I don't know, is that
Well, let me
real?
say Val Kilmer because I've played Batman at
Well,
one
that's
point.
true.
There's
That's
been
true.
52 Batman. Val Kilmer, also known for Top Gun, and of course Tombstone, one of the great.
Yeah, that's the real deal right there.
Yeah.
But at 65 though, man, oof,
Right.
ugh, that hurts, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
He's been sick for a while though. It's
yeah, you
been
could see it in some of his later photos too. He
yeah.
wasn't looking great. But yeah, that was one of those ones where because it's April Fool's Day, literally, I kind of like, let me go see if anybody really reported on this because this is kind of effed up if this is an April Fool's joke. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but yeah, so we got Deadpool was previewed to be the next Magic Secret Lair, which is pretty cool. And then on top of that, this is going to be the secret lair that goes to retailers. So that kind of got revealed, I believe, at first on the WPN Facebook group, and then publicly kind of after that. But this is actually really neat because I was kind of thinking like, if you're going to do one, and we knew it was going to be Universes Beyond with at least a couple of cards that had like unique mechanics. Like, what was it going to be? And we're like, with the timing, the assumption was it was going to be something Marvel related. And there was a lot of speculation. Are you going to do like a traditional big character or whatever? But it was like, well, we already did 5 really good ones. So it's like, is it Thor? Like, is it somebody from the movies, like a Doctor Strange? And then when it was revealed as Deadpool, it's like, that's the one.
It ain't gonna be Doctor Strange. That would make far too much sense.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it might be Doctor Strange. I'm like, okay, it's a magic user, blah blah. Like, it kind of makes sense.
Have
But
they put
Deadpool,
out any magic users yet on any of these cards from the Marvel universe? We got any?
no, we won't, and we probably won't for a minute. But I'm not upset with Deadpool. I think if you want to throw a bone to retailers and give them something people can
Yeah,
be excited about,
for a major market thing, yeah, Deadpool is probably the thing you want.
yeah, especially coming off the
Fresh off
recent
of
movie that everybody liked.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, like easy money, easy money. Now, details to remind everybody, it will be available on the website first, on the Secret Lair regular site, which people are like, then they're just taking away from retailers. Not really. So, what happens, the way I've had it explained to me that I guess the goals are, and this is after talking with several people, some probably can talk, some can't, so I ain't gonna tell you who it is. But the plan sounds like the goal is to actually try to get it to retailers around the same time that the cards, if you order them online, would be showing up in mailboxes. So technically, hopefully, people can buy the card or acquire the cards within the same like week to 2 week window. So it's not too crazy, and the retailers aren't really at like this crazy big disadvantage. You'll only be able to get the non-foil versions at your WPN retailers, but me just speculating from what I know, it's very likely customer service reasons, right? Like if there's an issue with the foils and they come directly from Wizards to your mailbox, like it's easy for them to know the chain of what happened and they can just replace it, whatever. But if it like goes to a distributor and then the distributor does or doesn't house it correctly, then it goes to your retail store and then maybe you don't even pick it up from them for 2 or 3 weeks and then you have a bent or weird foil, it becomes this whole thing and then they probably don't have any left to even send for replacements and it's a whole thing. So it just makes sense. But I do like that this is the card choice, man. I don't know. Do you think there's anything else that could have chosen better for this type of project?
I mean, at this point, maybe Spider-Man, but they're not doing that. So Deadpool is a character that is so hot right now because the movie just made millions of dollars.
Oh, you know what? It's funny you said that because I was just thinking I couldn't really think of one, and you said Spider Man, but that made me think of another one that probably would have been just as good. You could have done Venom.
I
Venom's
don't even
always
know if
popular
Venom's
with the
is
nerds, though.
not as popular, but Deadpool's popular
Oh
with
yeah, yeah, yeah,
everybody at
yeah.
this point.
Deadpool's definitely more popular. Don't get me
Deadpool's
wrong.
going to sell to people that don't even read comic books or play card games. That Deadpool has gone to another level at
Oh
this point.
yeah, yeah. Which is funny because he's really like a C tier character that they've just blown
And
up with the
also,
movies.
he's literally a parody of Deathstroke the Terminator over
Well,
in
yeah, of
DC.
course.
He that that's what's happened to poor Warner. That's happened twice now because Thanos is literally an imitation of Darkseid, but Thanos has become far more popular than Darkseid because they did such a good job with those movies.
Yep. Hell, well, I mean, just in the comics, they're more memorable. It's just like, I don't know. But yeah, this is a cool one. I'm here for it. I think some people, like I said, are kind of not sure how it's going to work out. But honest truth to me, I think if I still had my store, I would almost want people to get theirs a week or two that order them online, get them a week or two sooner than I would get them in my store, because I feel like that helps build hype for them when they show up. Like some people who will miss the online, so because there's always people who forget it's
Yeah.
online or don't buy it or whatever. They'll see those cards and be like, "Oh, that's sweet, man. I'd like to get one of those, whatever." And then a couple weeks later, it shows up in my store, and
Yeah.
now they're like, "Oh yeah, well now I got to buy one because I saw so and so playing with it, and the card was really cool. I need to get me one." So we'll see how it
I
works
think
out.
also because of the Assassin's Creed problem, I think they're going to stop trying to hit the same target that a movie or a video game
Oh
is
yeah,
trying to,
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's too hard to do. Because I was gonna say if you were able to hit at the same time as the Fantastic Four movie did, maybe, but as we've learned, there's no guarantee on that because movies get delayed, video games get delayed, cards get delayed. There's too many things you're not in control of trying to do simultaneous releases
Oh
of
yeah,
stuff.
like when you've got the Fantastic Four and the Thunderbolts and whatever, like 3 or 4 movies coming out this year. If you could have timed one of them, would have been cool. But no, I think this is a good safe card. Or safe group of cards, I should say.
And out of it would have had to be Fantastic Four because the average person has no idea who the
Oh
Thunderbolts
no,
are.
no, 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 no. Yeah, you wouldn't do Thunderbolts at all. I mean,
Even
unless you're just gonna
I'm
make
gonna
it a
wage
Bucky Barnes card or whatever, you
yeah.
ain't gonna make anything else out of that.
I'm gonna wager there's
Mhm.
probably half of comic book fans that don't literally know who the Thunderbolts are. They're not, at
That's
that.
very true. They're definitely on the D list. All right, let's talk about that because again, more stuff about pricing. But dude, we just got the announcement for the stuff for Switch 2, the big Nintendo reveal, all the stuff coming out with the game, specs, whatever. There was a crazy thing that got mentioned. First off, Mario Kart World. You're going to be able to race with 24 people online, which sounds awesome. Also sounds like I get to lose a lot of races. But
Also true.
the bigger issue is that they said with their whole chest and no hesitation, this will have an $80 price tag attached to it, making it now, I guess, the most expensive regular version of a game we've had on modern console systems.
Which even with that, there's a bundle where if you buy it at the same time you buy the Switch, they knock $30 off, and of course you're gonna have to buy a Switch to play it. So I doubt very many people are gonna pay $80 for it.
Oh, sure. I mean, you're gonna pay 530, right? Because I think it's 500 for the Switch and
Yeah.
then $30 for the game. But yeah, I mean, the fact that you could even just put $80 on a game now, and it didn't even seem like people balked at it that much. That's what was crazy. Like it wasn't like a bunch of posts about, I can't believe this is gonna be like people are like, it sucks, but price went up, but I'm gonna play some Mario Kart. Like
Because I thought about it. I've been paying 100 for Madden for 3 or 4 years because I never buy the regular version. I buy the collector's edition that has all the cool Ultimate Team cards. That go. Same thing for. I've been paying 100 for probably minimum WWE, baseball, and Madden for the past 3 years. It just as people start talking about, wow, $100 is a lot for a video game. And a lot of us, if you buy the collector's edition, and many of us do, have already been there. Like this past year when college football came back, the number for several months, the number one selling game in the U.S. was college football 25. I think the number 4 or 5 selling best game was the MVP bundle, which combined college football 25 and Madden 25 in one package. It's the same thing. You paid over $100 for that.
yeah. I mean, here's the thing we've talked about, right? Like we know people have been waiting on GTA 6 for I don't know, half a decade at this point at least, probably longer. But they're not going to not play that when it comes out at whatever
Exactly.
price, right? So let's say they decide, all right, for the first month, we're only going to have one version. That version is going to be $100. Maybe it comes with some in-game stuff. Maybe you get some cool little rewards, some
Yeah, some stuff
currency.
for Grand Theft Auto Online, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
How many people are going to not buy that for $100 in the first month after waiting 6 years for the game?
If you try to play GTA Online competitively, you almost have to. Because, hey, if everybody else starts the game with $1 million and can build their criminal empire, you're going to be struggling for the first week or so.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, so it's not crazy to think about. Hell, they could have a $200 version and people would probably buy it at this
right?
point. I mean, hell, it's people been waiting so long, it's become a meme everywhere. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like that's how long the so I mean, it's crazy to think, but we've said before, right? We've seen prices slowly escalating. There was concern that on the next round of consoles, the prices might go up $5 or $10 a time. Now, admittedly, $80 is a bit of a jump. Like well, I thought it was gonna be 65 to 70. I don't think it's gonna be 80, but that's a thing. And then we also know that some of these companies are gonna have to be figuring in tariffs and other costs. Or hell, our dude in charge just showed his chart earlier today of like reciprocal tariffs or whatever he's calling it. So like that's going to affect all the video games, like all the electronics. I would like pretty much hell 90% of the stuff we get that's that you're not just buying off the shelf at your grocery store probably has something involving an international piece to it that somebody paid more for.
And all of our gaming, because hey, if your groceries all of a sudden go up by 20 or 30%, you don't have as much money to spend on magic
Yep.
cards, video games, etc.
Yeah.
GameStop, by the way, already GameStop and most brick and mortar retailers already kind of circling the drain.
Yeah. It's going to be a crazy time, man. But I
One
just
of the
found that
things, a lot of people I think still like to buy at retailers is consoles, because if you
yes.
pay in 600 or 700 bucks for something, you really don't want to go through the process of having it shipped through the mail and
No, no, no.
then left on your doorstep for
Bro,
somebody
one
to
of them delivery
grab.
guys chunk it over your fence onto your patio or whatever. Like
Right.
you don't want that happening.
No.
Yeah, this is a crazy one. Like I said, I think it just surprised me because it was like the first title out of the gate, basically, of just like, yeah, and just so you know, retail price is gonna be $80. Like, all right
Well,
then.
because of the deal, especially at launch, I doubt
Yeah.
anybody pays for that, because you can't play without the Switch. So you're obviously buying the Nintendo Switch. You just buy them both at the same time.
But
Now
also
later, when people are buying it, let's a
six
couple of
months from
months.
now or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah,
But think about it from Nintendo's shoes. Like, it's actually a really smart marketing tactic, right? Because you're like, well, it is $80, but we have this thing that you could get it for 30, so it's cool. But then when the next thing comes out at $80, you go, well, no, we already had games that were $80. This isn't, you know what I mean? Like you literally go, oh, this is fine, and we sold a lot of them. It's
right.
okay, you know. So yeah, pretty well, and a little bit of a surprise because it's Nintendo. You usually don't think Nintendo is going to be the expensive product, right? So that also was a little bit of a surprise there.
And Nintendo's like, hey, who making the best games though? It's us.
Yeah, if they are, they are. You know. All right. Another interesting thing we saw here is kind of we sort of knew, but it feels like it was made official that there will be no new sequels from Larian for Baldur's Gate 3. Like we can just put that to bed officially because now they have made the statement and they have actually released, I guess, the dev toolkit to people to go in and start making mods. So that's usually the sign of like,
Yeah,
all right, they're saying publicly we have
they're
no plans
serious,
to do
y'all.
any more, but we know y'all want more stuff. Here's the thing: servers are still going to be up. We'll still sell copies of the game so people can play your mods, but we're done. You know,
We're not joking.
yeah, and that sad, but we knew. Once you separated from Wizards and the Tencent thing didn't happen, we saw the writing on the wall. But this is like you kind of hold out hope that maybe a thing might change, but no, it's official now.
Yeah,
But dude, for those of y'all don't, we went and looked it up before the show. They have made a crap ton of money off of Baldur's
exactly.
Gate 3. Like all nearly $2 billion if the numbers are to be believed. And after paying their percentage of licensing, after paying for servers, after paying for employees, development, whatever for 2 years, all that, still have profited almost $600 million off the game. That's crazy. That's crazy for a small studio. Like that's for real. Just make it rain money if you're a small
Yeah,
studio. Like they could take, let's say, 200 million, set that aside, and go work on their next 2 or 3 projects, and still
and I
have
was gonna say
money.
that's when you go work on the game you have dreamed of making since you were a little kid.
Yeah, which is great because we now see what Larian can do, and I
Right.
guarantee you they have a bigger budget now than they had when they
Oh
started
yeah.
working on Baldur's Gate 3. So yeah, maybe something cool. Maybe and we probably won't hear about it for another 2, 3, 4 years at this
Yeah.
point. But when it gets here, it might be sweet. So,
Yeah, they're a name now from the people that brought you Baldur's Gate
yep.
3. Okay, yeah.
But you know what? They got to be careful not to get Shyamalan because you get that first big one, everybody expects a certain thing, and even though the next one's good, it ain't that good.
I mean, it probably won't be Baldur's Gate 3
That's what I'm
good. Baldur's
saying.
Gate 3 is generational. It can still be an incredibly good game.
But we talked
Because
about it before.
they made other good games. This is one.
Sure.
Also, because what was the gap between 2 and 3? There's that Grand Theft Auto level of anticipation.
Yeah, there was a lot between that. But
Obviously, it won't be 20 years before their next game.
but I've been saying this. Like our generation, we are a little bit messed up because we've seen the greatest of a lot of things. Whether it's athletes, TV shows, whatever. And we don't know how to measure stuff properly anymore. Like hell, if you're again coming back to the sports ball, you see people that look at LeBron and go like, well, he ain't Jordan. Like, he's still damn good. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, like, bruh, that doesn't like just because something doesn't match the greatest thing ever in your eyes doesn't mean it's trash.
And when people always do this debate, people keep, because again, the youth and all that. Bill Russell has 11 rings.
Well, sure.
People keep, is it Jordan or LeBron? 11 championships. That'll never be done again.
My thing is though, looking at this is the next thing they make. I have no doubt from how they've handled stuff online, how they answer questions, how they've responded to the fans, the development changes they've made. The next project will be good.
Yeah.
Probably better than 90, maybe even percent more than that than we see of that year when it gets released. But there will be people who literally go, yeah, I'm just not feeling it like I was Baldur's Gate 3. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be it. Like, and that's all that's going to matter. That's going to be really sad for them. So I hope, even if it's not Baldur's Gate 3, I just hope it's one that still brings in new people and is really exciting. Because, man, when they have that much money to work with, I'd love to see what they can do. Because when you
Yeah.
imagine, they probably had like, whatever they get budgeted for the next project, I guarantee you Baldur's Gate 3 had like a quarter of that at best. So, like, this will be cool. I hope they get to do something with that. But I guess since we mentioned Tencent, we'll also talk about them here because,
Yeah, their foothold on everything in gaming continues to
dude,
expand.
we talked about this before. We knew Ubisoft was talking to them,
Yeah.
and we sort of speculated on what it could be. And in my eyes, I thought, okay, they're either going to try to do a buyout or they'll probably just do some type of branding, marketing deal to help them move more stuff and probably just buy like 10%. This deal is way weirder than I thought.
It's a
25% of the company.
Yeah, it's unusual. It's a $1.25 billion investment. They're going to own roughly 25% of the company, and they're going to create a subsidiary that will be responsible for Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six. Basically, the three franchises they have that are still making money. And the other rest of Ubisoft will work on stuff like let me see. Here it says Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, The Division, Rayman, Prince of Persia. It feels like all the games that don't make any money is what the rest of Ubisoft is working on.
That's what
That's how
makes
they
it
got in this
weird, though.
mess.
That's the weird part. It's you bought 25% to get basically operating control of what makes 75% of the money. Like, yeah, like, I don't understand. Like somewhere behind the scenes, somebody's getting their palms greased or something.
And it
You
doesn't
know,
technically say that that Tencent runs that subsidiary. It just says that subsidiary exists now. Because
well, yeah,
apparently,
that's true. That's true.
everybody still reports to Gilmo, the guy that has been in charge of Ubisoft for years now.
Yeah, I don't know what this is going to look
It's
like.
and again, you infuse almost $2 billion into a company that's taking on water, and you keep the same captain of the ship that has been taking on water. It's a weird, weird looking deal.
Yeah, it's just kind of awkward all the way around. And the timing of this doesn't also feel great because this deal had to have been close to being done and the papers close to being signed so they could announce it today before Assassin's Creed Shadows actually launched. You know
You
what
would
I
think
mean?
so.
So they may not even known like, oh, this actually was a banger for us. We didn't know it was going to hit like this, but the deal's already done. So I don't know.
I
It's
think they were
weird.
to the point where Assassin's Creed probably could have moved 15, 20 million. They were still going to need help because what's the next game that's going to make any money?
Yeah, that's true too. It's a weird thing, man. I don't
They
know.
got too many franchises that just aren't, and and again, they paid for Star Wars Outlaws, and that didn't make any
Yeah,
money.
that
So
didn't do well at all.
they're still paying that debt down. So I think even I don't know that Assassin's Creed Shadows could have sold enough copies to save them from having to do something.
Yeah, say this: if you are a fan of Ubisoft products, just keep your ear to the ground because I don't think any of us know how this is going to work out yet. And I would not be surprised if in the next 24 to 36 months, Tencent doesn't try to buy a little bit of a bigger piece if Ubisoft doesn't have a couple more hits. So we'll see.
Yeah, because the other games are talking about the Crew, like you said, Tom Clancy's The Division. They just canceled an open world game for The Division. I don't know. I assume they're working on something. I don't know, but The Division is something that hadn't, like a lot of the games we just talked about. The Division hadn't had a hit in a minute, so
Mm-hmm.
this is going to be Rayman again. Yeah, Rayman's got a great legacy, but what was Rayman's last good game? It's been a minute.
I couldn't even tell you,
Yeah.
honestly. But all right, we're going to bring this to the dinner table. And honestly, the question today makes a lot of sense with the theme of the show. But what's the most expensive gaming purchase you've ever made?
The Switch 2 in
Yeah, probably
June.
will be soon.
I think I bought a Versus collection. I think that was about $600 or so.
Okay, that's a real one.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, technically, I guess I could say a game store, but that's
Oh
kind of a
yeah,
cop out. Like I was
definitely
about to
true
say
though.
something, and then went,
I
"Well, I
got
did buy a store one
yeah.
time." Like
That's baller. I can't compete
to
with
be to
that.
be fair, the store was not making very much money, and the deal was pretty easy to negotiate. So whatever. I don't know. I mean, most expensive like real purchase I've made for gaming. I don't know if it's maybe like a PC that I needed to buy to play some stuff, possibly because I did a lot of gaming on PC for a minute, a lot of StarCraft,
Oh
a
yeah,
lot of Diablo 2. So I probably spent even back then. That was probably like a $700-800 purchase for an upper end
I
computer at
forgot
the
about my
time.
gaming PC. Like, yeah, that's a $2,000 purchase. I
That's probably.
completely
I
had
mean,
forgotten about it.
I
But
bought
yeah,
some
that's
collections though that were even outside of the business that were like close to the 2K range. So like maybe buying a collection probably
yeah,
might also be my answer. But if not, it's definitely like a piece of electronics, a computer thing or
yeah.
something. I mean, I guess if you want to get real technical, like some convention trip where you had to buy like
Oh
hotel,
well,
plane
yeah.
tickets, whatever. Because that'll get you 1,000 plus quick if you're not careful.
And we
You
got
know,
a lot of work out of this gaming PC because obviously I use it. It's what they do their homework on. Also, because it's the most powerful PC in the house.
yeah,
That was the thing. Tish uses it to edit videos. Also, I mean, it's everybody. So
yeah.
definitely, we've gotten our money's worth out of it.
I think you're right. When you start working off of those machines in addition to gaming,
Yep.
like you do spend a lot. I mean, hell, mine ended up getting a 3090 in it a couple years ago. And I have a 3080 sitting on my shelf,
Yeah.
GPU wise. So it's like, that's another probably $300 just sitting over there
Right.
that I need to find something to do with. But, you do what you got to do because it's part of the work, right? You spend the money
Exactly.
because it makes the work easier so you can make more money. So yeah, probably something like that. I know it's probably not like the flashy answer. I didn't go buy a one ring or whatever, but yeah, I think that's it. Just a couple thousand, probably tops. I don't think I've really spent a crazy amount. Like now with the business, we've bought collections that were big and we
Yeah.
paid to run a whole convention, which was several $1,000s, stuff like that. But on an individual level, yeah, that's probably it. But all right, Brian, where can they find you when you're making that money with that machine?
All right. App Trigger is on. I started to say the new Blue Sky. It's probably not new anymore, but it's newer than say Twitter. But yeah, App Trigger is on Blue Sky right now. So come by and check us out over there, and also actually go by apptrigger.com and read my and other people's writings about gaming things.
And as always, you can find me at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. And my goodness, if you want to know about Dragonstorm, there's going to be like 50 things on the website between now and then over on YouTube. Hell, I got 3 new things up now, so go check them out. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome, And most importantly, while the world's a mess, be awesome to each other.